There's so many things that I wish I'd known sooner in life that I now look back from the vantage point of 75. And if I can share with you even a few of them so that it makes a difference for you now, whether you're 40, 50, 60, 80, or beyond, then that's why I'm here today. So I thought I'd sit outside, even though you may hear a little bit of wind today here in Tucson, Arizona. But one of the things I've learned, and this one I learned fairly early on, is that nature, being outside, being in the natural elements in beautiful spaces, really feeds your soul, really feeds your emotions and helps your brain just to be happier. And that's so important to me. That's why we live where we live, because we have this gorgeous acre with vantage points and views and great spaces, gardening. Who knew? When I was younger, I thought, I had a mother and older sisters who were very skilled with gardening, and I just was kind of discounted. I was discounted in a lot of ways in my family growing up and beyond growing up. But what I discovered on my own was that I loved the feeling of my hands in the earth and seeing something grow and seeing something bloom and feeding hummingbirds and seeing them gather, to the point of yesterday we found one, a beautiful, beautiful hummingbird that didn't make it for whatever reason, whether it flew into a window and I literally started crying, as I cupped it in my hands, because it's such a heart-wrenching moment. We gave it a little burial on our property, spoke some words over it. And I think that's the other lesson, is that nothing lasts forever, at least in the earthly plane. I do believe that there's something else, that we live in this 3D world, and that beyond that, there's something else for us. So that will be the adventure, the ultimate adventure eventually. Take me a long time to get to that, because I used to be, and I wouldn't say I'm 100% there, but I used to be really afraid of end of life, right? And so the solution to that, though, is to embrace life while we're here. Embrace all of it. So lessons along the way, I didn't start online until I was already past 50. I was about 53. And I've alluded to that many times. I was afraid to say my age for a long time. And this is the other thing I'm going to say, is just embrace it. Just own it. Don't apologize for it. Don't shrink into the shadows or disappear because of it, whatever that number is for you. Because, it's an old saying, but it really is true. It's just a number. It is just a state of mind. And that state of mind aspect is so, so important. So I started online when I was 53. And it wasn't until just a few years ago I started saying, I've been online for fill in the blank at that point, 18 years, 19 years. It's been 21 now. And I would say I didn't start till I was past 50. That's as close as I could get to it, because I was still afraid to say a number. Now, as time went on, I realized how ridiculous that was, because obviously people could do the math. Oh, it's 50 something plus this many. Okay, she's around. And then I'm like, who cares? Does anybody think I'm that important that they're going to be sitting there with their notepad or their calculator figuring out how old I am? But when I got to 74, my birthday's in October, and when I got to 74, I started feeling like, 75 is just feeling like a milestone. It's feeling like some kind of a crossroads. Maybe I'm supposed to have some new sage-like top of the mountain wisdom. I don't know that I've got that, but I have what I have to share with you today. But I started thinking, it's time to say the number. It is time to celebrate the number. It's time to quit silently within apologizing for the number, or thinking somehow, oh, maybe people will think I'm way younger than that. All of that is just so fruitless, such a waste of energy. And so I started my mind practicing, moving towards saying, I'm 75. Now I'm saying it all the time, and I'm saying it with ownership. Yeah, I look in the mirror and say, oh, yeah, I am. I'm 75. And I'm just going to own that. So I'm not saying that you need to go trumpet your age to the world or anything like that, but just inwardly even, just really knowing you are exactly where you're meant to be. And this is about remembering who you really are. So as I say, when I started when I was past 50, I was thinking, at the time I didn't really concern myself with that. I wasn't really thinking, oh my gosh, I'm past 50. I totally embraced what I was going to do. When I read an article about copywriting, I didn't know what it was. I honestly had never even heard of it. And I read an article online, and it's like, oh, with words, for clients, expressing things. Oh, and I just kind of lit up. And this is another thing I learned, that when you have a full body yes, what does that mean? Well, you might get chills, you might start sweating, you might feel this burst of energy, you might feel your heart rate speeding up, you might feel your breath get a little faster, of just like, oh my gosh, like this a great, light from the heavens kind of thing. But just however that feels for you, but just a real inner yes, yes. And when you have that, follow it. Don't ignore it. Don't tamp it down. Don't say, well, I shouldn't be feeling this way, or who would, everyone will think I'm crazy if I do this. But when I look back at that time, when people said to me, how did you get that successful in your very first year? Because I was already past 50, as I've said. I have no college degree. I was on my own at 17, homeless in my 40s, stalked for 2 years, and lots of other really hard things along the way with my family of origin and my family that I created as I got older. A lot of things, loss, disappointments, grief. But there was something about that copywriting thing at that point that I just absolutely did not even give myself a moment to doubt it. I just went for it completely. And that whole first year, and I'd never written anything for anybody, by the way. I was a clerical worker, a secretary. Couldn't stand that kind of work, but that's what I did when I was younger. Cashier, food server, daycare provider. Nothing in that resume said, you're going to hit it big as a copywriter. But I just didn't allow myself to think anything less than, I can do this. I am doing this, and that's a clue right there. I am doing this. I am doing this. I was also willing to do whatever it took to do it. And that meant we sold our old mobile home in Yuma, Arizona, green shag carpeting, plastic sinks, and a whole bit. There's a whole story around that because it had an amazing view. Didn't have anything else going for it except that. And that's the thing I sold, was the view. But with my husband's blessing and support, we sold it so that I would have some kind of a fund to start a copywriting business. And that's what I did. And my first year I did $500,000 online. I know, it's like insane, but that's what happened. That's what happened. I did it again the second year. And so that was 21 years ago. How did that even happen? Was that my shifting of my internal belief about what was possible, my identity. So one of the lessons from 75 back to in my 50s was that shift in identity is so important as your mind wraps itself around the fact that you believe this for yourself. You fully embrace this. You believe it at the depths of your soul. That starts to change everything. That's what the secret actually is what we believe is possible for ourselves. What we're willing to do to be that person that we see ourselves becoming. And now when I look back at that time, it's like, wow, I was so much younger. And so when I see other people, and this is what I do, I help people who are past 50 step out into the light of who they truly are and really own that, really embrace who you really are, because you have this lived wisdom for decades that can be turned into something that will help someone else. And at the same time is helping you. What could be better to impact others in the most positive way and change your life in the most positive way? So now when I look back at that and I see some of the people I work with, it's like, you have so much time. You do. And that you really can develop something entirely amazing for yourself. So another lesson from this perspective is just that. It's not selfish to do that, to really embrace who you're meant to be and step away from what everyone always told you you were, who they told you you were, what you believed erroneously a lot of the time, maybe from a very young age, about who you actually are, what you're actually made of. Stardust, okay? That you have a divine nature. And that divinity can come through you, for you, speak to you, guide you. And I realized from the time I was a kid, that's what was happening. I can remember when I was a child having such overwhelming feelings of what we would call déjà vu. I had no idea what that was, but just this overwhelming sense that everything I was experiencing in that moment had already happened, that I'd already experienced this very thing. And it was so powerful that I would literally start to feel dizzy, and I'd have to put my head down. I'd sit down and put my head down. And there was no one I could talk to about this. I didn't have the kind of family where I could say, hey, what is this thing I'm experiencing? And now when I look back at that, I feel like I have had these spiritual signals all the way along. So from this perspective of 75, don't discount those moments. Don't discount those moments of divine intervention, divine guidance, divine leadership, whatever you want to call that for yourself. This is what I call it for myself. Whatever you think of, if you believe there's anything outside yourself, or even if you just believe deeply that your intuition can guide you, and it can, and that's, I believe, the source of it. I just said where I believe that comes from. But that's up to you to decide for yourself. But when you have those moments, we have this thing I've coined a phrase for it called spiritual anxiety. Well, that too, but spiritual amnesia also. We can get anxious over the feeling, but when you move into it and embrace it, you begin to realize there might be something there for you, and perhaps you have some really powerful experience that's private and personal to you. And then we go about our lives and the noise of daily life of we need to go to the grocery store and it's time to pay the utility bill and what time are we getting up tomorrow? You know, all of that stuff of just normal, regular life seems to drown out and mask that moment. And it's like we have amnesia, that we received something so powerful for ourselves. So pay attention. Pay attention. When you get those signals, when you get those promptings, they don't happen all the time. For a lot of us, it's not like a daily event, though I started having moments that were actually meant for other people. And then I had to have the courage to deliver the message. So when something speaks to you that says, you know, this person needs to hear this from you, I have quite a few stories about that, actually, of people I didn't, and it was always someone I didn't know. I didn't know them at all. I'd be in an event or I was somewhere where they were as well. And in earlier years, it took the form of being at a marketing event or something where I was speaking at something, and I didn't necessarily know everyone there. And I've had a number of times where I just delivered the message because I knew it was meant for them. And every single time I'll say for another video when I talk about some of those specifics, but every single time they would have a very obvious emotional reaction, tears, chills, literally like a startle kind of reflex. And they would tell me the meaning of the message. That's an amazing thing. And the more we have the courage to embrace these things about ourselves, you might have some things right now that have just been laying under the surface, or that you've thought, well, I can't talk about that. I can't share that. Really? That might be the thing. If you're wondering, what is the thing I'm supposed to be talking about? Am I supposed to start on YouTube? Am I supposed to start my online business? Because that's what I help people do, is all of those things. What am I going to talk about? This isn't just a strategy, okay? It's not just a formula. So follow your heart. Follow those inner promptings. Follow that. Believe in that for yourself. Because here's the other thing. There's a place for pretending. And what do I mean by that? It's like, let's pretend like grown-ups. Let's pretend like adults who are creating the best of our lives for the rest of our lives. Because it has been proven that when we can pretend strongly enough in our mind, just really see ourselves in a different way. Now, when I say see ourselves, I understand, because I'm married to someone like this, not everyone's a visual thinker. Not everyone has the picture in their head. So when we say, close your eyes and envision, some people go, yeah, it's dark in there. I said this once to my husband. I was imagining what it was going to look like when we got to a place we were going to that we'd never been. And I said to him, well, do you do that? Do you kind of start picturing? He said, no. Now, he happens to be legally blind as well. So he really does not, he just doesn't have the mental picture. But what you can have without that is the feeling. What's the feeling that goes with that? Are you excited? Are you curious? Are you having a lot of anticipation? Are you just looking forward to the thing? Are you kind of imagining how it'll feel to lay on a beach with the warm sun on you, or the sound of the ocean, or the sound of the birds when you're on a hike? That's all right. That works too. We're not all visual thinkers, but just when we imagine and pretend like a grown-up, we're talking about our future. We're talking about how we can impact others, what we would like to shift into. And this is the other thing from the perspective of 75. That's 3/4 of a century. It's like, what? How can this possibly be, right? But from that perspective, there's still so much more that we can create for ourselves, because it's never too late. It really is not ever too late. And so when we channel that childlike ability to pretend, to imagine into things that we truly desire to have in our life and allow ourselves to feel those feelings, really amazing things can happen. There was a study in the 70s, I can't recall the name of the scientist right now, but they took a group of men that were all 70 years old, younger than me, but they're all 70, and they put them in a controlled environment where everything about the environment was made to replicate when they had been 50, so 20 years before. This was done in the 70s, so it really was going back to the 50s, the way they did it. So the magazines on the table, the way the television looked, what might happen when they turned the television on, what the phones looked like, what they were wearing, what they were eating, everything about their environment. They put them with completely controlled environment of, we're going back to the future. We're going back to being 50. And they did it so completely that they were able to verify that the men literally started aging backwards in how they were thinking, how they were standing, what they were talking about, how they were feeling, their energy levels. Literally, they were able to document shifts that happened in their physiology as well as just their attitudes. And it said at the end of this experiment, it wasn't super long, but at the end of it, they were out playing touch football with each other, running around like a bunch of 50-year-olds, you know? And they were saying it really is true that you can shift your perspective very completely by fully embracing the reality that you're creating for yourself. I think that's pretty darn amazing. Now, another thing I definitely wanted to touch on today is that it's okay to feel like I'm ready to slow down a little bit. Not because I'm infirm or incapable, because I choose to. I used to go to marketing events all the time. This is how I started my business. This is how I networked. This is how I got to that $500,000 in the first year. And again, a story for another day about the event I went to and the amazing things that happened at my very first one that created immediately $100,000 in revenue. And I was only about a few months into, maybe 5 months into my decision to be a copywriter. There's so much mental magic to all of this, really, how our brains work, the neuroplasticity of our brains. We can literally change its shape as we think new things, learn new things. And I did another video about the testing that you can actually stave off some of the mental degradation, brain shrinkage kind of things that happen as we get older by learning new things, by trying new things, and I usually don't say trying, but I'm saying it on this. Give yourself a chance to explore new things. So, but I decided, I think the last 3 or 4 big events I went to, and within it was a couple years ago now, every time I got sick, I didn't feel well, I had a day-long nosebleed, I got the vid, you know, there were so many things where I just didn't feel well. And my whole body was telling me that. And I just finally decided, I don't need to do this anymore. This just isn't the right thing for me now. At this phase of my life, it doesn't fit anymore. So don't be afraid to throw off the things that don't fit anymore. I love having a VIP day here, for having someone come and sit with me right here and have the one-on-one conversation. I love that. And so people can reach out to me if they want to have a VIP experience with me where we work really personally in a really beautiful atmosphere that's very personal. That resonates with me. That's where I'm at in this part of my life now. But the other thing is, I'm not a friend gatherer. I'm kind of an introvert in a lot of ways. And I love the people I work with in the sense of my clients. It's not like I go to an office. That's never going to happen. That hasn't been for a long time. But just, I discovered at this age what it means to be able to say, I love you guys. I really do. There used to be a time where I made fun of that. I was like, sure, right, you love people. Mm-hmm. You know, I really did not understand what that deeper universal love for our fellow human, love for the energy of another, that truly emanates from your heart. I really did not understand what that was until this part of my life. And so don't be afraid of that you can feel love for people you have never met personally. There was someone in my coaching community who lives far across the world, who had to have recently a very scary surgical time that they were getting ready to do, and it was literally the day before, and they told me, I always feel better when I'm with you. And this was virtually. This is from thousands of miles. And the honor of that for me, the honor of knowing that you can impact one person at a time. You don't have to have a crowd. You don't have to have a big audience. You don't have to be all over every social media platform showing how amazing everything is about your life, you know. You can impact people very deeply. And you, at this point of life, and if you're younger, you're accruing this, you're gathering this, the wisdom, the lived experience, that nothing else can replicate that. Nothing else can take the place of that. AI has a very prominent place in what I do every single day, but not this part. It can't have the emotional intelligence, the human heart and soul, that deeper visceral reaction. And so if you're alone more, it can be okay. It can be okay. I mean, one of the hard things of my life has been that someone very dear to me in my family has chosen not to have anything to do with me. And I'm not even entirely sure why. I don't know if I ever will be. But I've had to learn to accept that and find my peace. So find your peace in any way that is meaningful to you. This is part of it for me. Plucking a spent bloom off the geranium, hearing the birds, feeling the breeze and just the sound of the branches moving above my head, my wind chimes, looking out at the mountains, looking at the blue sky. This brings me peace. This brings me tranquility. And being here with you. I've been thinking about this, and I don't know if I've said anything here that's going to help you. I sincerely hope that I have. I wish I'd known a lot of these things sooner. I wish I'd known in my 40s and my 30s that I really could become more of who I truly am, that you can make this change in your life. And it's really about remembering who you actually are, who you've always been, who you are meant to be. It's in there. And I'm all about that remembering, because it's already there. It just may be buried under so many layers of things we heard as a child, things that our brain soaked in and said, oh, this must be true. But those are just thoughts. We are the thinker of our thoughts. We are not our actual thoughts. And we choose. We choose. As I close this today, if nothing else, just understand that you are something very special. There is no one else just like you. You are meant for a path in life that might be calling to you, might be nudging you. Pay attention. Pay attention to that, whatever it might be. Embrace it. Embrace this part of your life. You don't have to become old in the sense of diminished capacity, ability to think, ability, and God willing. You know, I know that there's processes that sometimes just can't be helped. But if you are feeling pretty good, you know, doing all right, you can keep moving forward. And it can still be exciting and fun and rewarding, financially rewarding as well as emotionally and spiritually rewarding. It's not too late to put your voice out there if that calls to you. I don't care if it's teaching people how to knit and crochet, or how to change a tire, how to tie a tie, how to start an online business, how to play the piano, how to bake an amazing cake. You have wisdom and lived experience that could help someone else. And when you're helping that someone else, it also helps you in so many ways. I would love to hear from you if any of this resonates with you, if you found a nugget or two that's helpful to you. I hope there's some younger people watching this. This is like a message in a bottle to my own grandchildren, because there's two of them I don't get to see very much anymore because of the reason I mentioned earlier. And I realized that even doing this is like that message in a bottle. What do you want to leave out there that could help someone else, that can share your heart, your purpose, your reason, your big why, what's important to you, what's beautiful to you, what's funny to you, that you can share in a way that continues to be found even after your time here has come to its conclusion. I think that's it for right now. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have some other life lessons for you along the way because I'm still learning them myself. And one of the things is just showing up, just showing up. So thanks for showing up here with me today. If this was meaningful to you, please give me a like, subscribe if you'd like to hear more from me. But most of all, what I'd really love is if you comment and let me know if there was anything about this that was helpful to you or something else you might like to know. Until next time, this is Tina Lorenz. Keep on remembering exactly who you are, because you know what? We're not done yet. And it really is. Never too late. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.